Hi there, this is Dave at TSP. Doing a video today, I guess a bit of a follow-up video on this 2023 model KTM125SX. Now, I started to post a little bit of stuff on social media about this particular bike about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I actually stopped posting about it because there were a couple of question marks hanging over the bike that I wanted to resolve first before I gave too much more info, or certainly before I gave any power figures. So a little bit of history about this bike. This actually came from the UK. These bikes are not yet available in Australia. And so we bought this in the UK, had it stripped down into boxes and shipped over here so that we could be one of the first to get one of these new TBI models in Australia. Now, the reason for, I guess, going to that effort is the TBI, obviously, it's a new injection system. It's a new ECU. It's got the servo power valve. So there's a lot of new technology that we needed to get our head around so we can start creating cylinder heads and ECU tunes and all the rest of the products. Anyway, so I did some social media posts. I did one which was like a time lapse of a build video of putting the bike back together. Then I did a second one, which was basically putting the bike onto the dyno and doing some of the first power runs. But I didn't post any power figures in that second video because the bike was making really, really low power, and I couldn't figure out why. One thing that happened during shipping of the bike was that the map switch, which is located up on the bars, was smashed. I suspected that maybe the ECU may have been stuck in map 2, which is the softer map, rather than map 1. But the new map switch is a totally different setup to previous years. It's essentially and I've finally got a replacement now. This map switch is essentially a little smart device. So it's no longer just an open or closed circuit like the previous two-stroke bikes. This map switch sends and receives signals to and from the ECU, and without the map switch there, it's impossible to change maps. Now, the ECU will remember which map it was last in, when it was turned off. So what I suspect happened is before the bike was stripped down over in the UK, it was last in map 2. Then in transport, the map switch was totally smashed. So up until now, we haven't been able to take the ECU out of map 2. So I think that's the reason why the power figures were so low. On my dyno, the way that I run it, it was making 35 at the rear wheel. Now, for comparison, that's about the same as my old YZ125, and it's about 4 horsepower down on the previous Carby model 125SX. So I was quite shocked at how low the power was, and that's the reason why I didn't want to post anything about it, because I wanted to get to the bottom of it first. So anyway, we're back here now. I was lucky enough to find a customer of ours who by chance received one of the very earliest shipments of the new 23 models. They were willing to send us their map switch. So I've got that here hanging off the bike. It's all connected in behind the number plate here at the front. And so I'm about to put this bike on the dyno again. Now, I don't know what the result's going to be. Whatever it is, I'm going to post it up in this video. I'll show you the previous results I got before. And I'm really hoping that this bike makes more than the 35 at the wheel that I was getting before. I was told by a pretty reliable source at KTM that the new TBI bike is about, the 125 this is about 1 horsepower down on peak power compared to the last Carby model. But it is meant to have a significant amount of extra mid-range. So that's what I'm expecting to see, a little bit less peak and a little bit more mid-range. So anyway, let's get the bike onto the dyno now and we'll see what it produces. So I've just finished the dyno runs on the 125. Yeah, interesting results. I did pick up a bit of power. So, you know, having a proper map switch on this bike, I'll show it to you there, the 23 map switch, and being able to flick into map 1, certainly picked up a little bit of power. But overall, there's no question the bike is still down on the previous year models. I'll show you some of the results now. The red curve on the screen is map 1, so that's the full power map. Again, done with the standard airbox lid. So that makes 36.6. It's, you know, 1.3 horsepower up on map 2. A little bit more peak power there. Interestingly, when I swapped the airbox lid, so I went to the extra airbox lid that's provided that has a few extra holes in it, we did pick up a little bit of horsepower, 36.9. It's only, I don't know if the camera can zoom in on this, it's only in a couple of little spots, so it's a very small increment. Interestingly, the first couple of runs with the extra, like the alternate airbox lid, did actually make about 38, 37.5, but that was only while the engine was cold, and as soon as it warmed up after the third, or certainly by the fourth run, it had dropped down to 36.9, and then it stayed there. Now that's kind of normal. Most bikes will start off with higher runs when the engine's cold, and then you know, if you're a good dyno operator, normally you would keep doing runs until the power stabilizes. There's no point in claiming the very first or second run, because they're usually not a sustainable level of power. So that's, yeah. So the results, that, you know, they're kind of okay. I'll bring up on the screen the results from a previous carby model. Now this is a bike that I did not that long ago. You can see there it made 39.2. Now I've had a lot of those carby model 125s on the dyno. They always make 39.0 to 39.2. Very, very consistent. So you see straight away, so that's the blue curve there. Straight away, the new TBI 125, it certainly has a lot more mid-range. I mean, at 8,500 horsepower there, you're talking about, I don't know, what's that, probably, sorry, at 8,500 revs, you're talking around 3 horsepower. So that is a big, big difference for a 125. That will feel very, very different pulling out of corners. The TBI will pull out of a corner in the mid-range power a lot better than the old carby bike. But then you get up to the top end, and obviously the carby bike peaks a lot higher, you know, 2.3 horsepower more. You know, it's a pretty big difference. Now, not everyone can ride a 125, you know, at that very, very high level. So a lot of riders will be better off with the new 23 model TBI with that extra mid-range grunt. You know, a lot of riders honestly will be better off with less top end and more mid-range. Now, I guess the interesting thing for me is, you know, what are the tuning opportunities? Well, straight away, there's a lot. We can definitely get that 36.9 that we got down here. I'm very confident that we're going to get that higher. Whether or not we'll hit 39.2 with an otherwise stock bike, I don't know. Probably not. My guess is that the pipe has a lot to do with that, perhaps. I actually haven't checked the part numbers to see if they're different from the carby model. I better do that before I say too much more about the pipe. You know, the head will have an impact. I need to look at the porting and all the rest. But yeah, I'm very, very confident that there's a lot of tuning potential for us with this bike. We will definitely be able to get this thing singing. You know, the aim will be to keep all of that extra mid-range, but to get the top end at least back to where it was, or somewhere very, very similar to a carby bike, because overall that will then definitely be a better package. There's no question. To have that extra mid with similar top end, you know, would be the bike that you'd pick any day of the week. So anyway, interesting results. Not quite what I was expecting. Certainly lower on power than what I was expecting and what I had been told. But you know, great starting point, and onwards and upwards for here. And it certainly puts us at Two Stroke Performance in a great position, because I dare say there will be a lot of people wanting to tune these bikes to get a bit more top end and over rev out of them. So anyway, thanks for watching. Any questions, just let us know.